Hello, everyone. I wanted to record this presentation that I recently gave at the Indiana Lakes Management Conference. I'm just going to do it in one take, no edits. If I don't do it now, it's not going to get done. So apologize for any missteps or mispronunciations or whatever else. It's going to be a little bit different than what I delivered there, but here you have it. So let's get right into it. So anybody watching this probably already knows what Lake Maxinkuckee is, but it is the second largest natural lake in Indiana. Um, three main sub watersheds there, 3 square miles of water. And we want to use this data buoy to keep tabs on it, to monitor the lake and interact with it, get to know about the quality and everything else. So this project was funded by our donors at the Environmental Fund, as well as the Marshall County Community Foundation, which funded it in part. So the unit we selected was a YSI product. They're headquartered in Ohio and make a lot of these. And basically what you can see here on the screen, let's see this way, is the computer goes down inside this metal tube, and this computer has different ports where the different sensors are. So you buy the computer, you buy the buoy, you buy the communication so it can stream, you buy a weather station on top, and then for each metric that you want, you put in another sensor. So we have pretty common water quality measuring sensors. pH, which is measuring the acidity or basicity of the water, whether it's acid or neutral or basic, right? Dissolved oxygen, total algae, and blue-green algae, which we'll get into. Blue-green is kind of what we're concerned about for that potential toxins that can be produced. The turbidity of the water, as well as the conductivity, which is typically used as how much salt's in the water, and of course the water temperature. Right there at the bottom of the buoy is a sealed canister with the batteries in it. So it's solar powered, so the batteries get charged up during the day, and then the sensors continue to read overnight, and the weather sensor continues to read, and then sends that data over a cell connection. Now, I'm really glad. These are expensive projects, but I'm glad we didn't cheap out and we went to the trouble of it. We're going to get some good stuff. This is a very high quality meteorological tower that tells us wind speed and direction. So even though it's on a buoy that's floating out there in the water, it takes GPS corrected directional value somehow. It has the raw data and then it corrects it. So even though it's out there spinning, it can get the wind speed. It has relative humidity. If anybody's out there knowing how much they're going to sweat, I'm sorry, that's not the one. It's dew point. When dew point is high, you're going to sweat because dew point is a combination of the relative humidity and the temperature. Air pressure as well as precipitation. That little glass thing on the very top of it is the precipitation measuring device. It's optical, so it does it with kind of lasers and lights and such. It's not quite as accurate as the unit that the tipping bucket method that has a little thing, but that's on a stationary application. This is bobbing out in the water. So I haven't checked this against, uh, you know, other ways of measuring rainfall, but that's what we have there. So where did we put it this last year in 2025? We put it just out of Abenabi Bay over by the Academy. One for ease of access because we could reach it right off the Academy Pier there. It's going to minimize hazards to the buoy and to others. That's one thing a lot of people were concerned about. As far as I know, we didn't have any issues while it was out there. Usually that area is not where people are, going fast or skiing. It's not by a major boat ramp. It's usually fishermen over there and then rowers and manual devices being launched from the academy. The other thing is you can see, this is going to be hard to do, I'm doing reverse here. You can see what's called the fetch, the wind that comes from the southeast and from the southwest and goes northeast across the lake. That is the fetch. And it's going to capture the kind of the maximum wind speeds there. It's a little bit sheltered from the east. from those trees. So maybe when the wind's coming out of the east, it's not going to be quite as accurate, but usually that's not our wind situation here. And for 2026, we haven't put the buoy in yet, but we are probably going to put it in the same location unless we have, substantial reason to move it. But fortunately, it's something that we can move. And this is a picture of us launching, I believe it was late March, early April, late March of last year. Shout out to Jeff's PWC Marine, who has been helping us get the buoy in and out, and even a maintenance visit as well that we had to do. He helped us out this first season, and we appreciate him lending his equipment and time. We do have a public-facing dashboard. Yes, I got it. I have to point the opposite way here. You can scan this QR code or go to our website. Right now, it's not live as of this recording in early April because we don't have it deployed. I also put it up on a screen facing the window downtown. Just with the monitor that I had, threw it up real quick. The glare is not great. I can't get the screen bright, so I'm looking at maybe purchasing another screen or seeing if I can change the configuration or mount it something better. But we do have 24/7 access to this data. So our, let's see if it's, yeah, our most popular thing that people really are looking for as far as the feedback that I've got, water temperature, air temperature, right? And wind speed. So if you haven't read anything yet on this, can you quick see which of those two colors is air versus water? So this is over the course of about a week from left to right. Any guesses? Guess at home. So the air temperature is going to be red because that's fluctuating much more versus the water, which takes a long time to heat up and cool down, is going to be the water temperature. And this was in June, and when it was getting quite soupy, we had highs in the mid to upper 80s, and that drives up the surface water temperature pretty quickly because remember that lakes in the summer stratify. So the hot water layer is just sitting on the top. It is not, evenly distributing that heat all the way down through the lake, which case it would be a lot cooler because there's just a lot of mass of water there. It's stratified, so it's sitting right on the top. So that's why it can feel very soupy on the top. If you hold your breath and dive down, it can be quite a bit cooler. So I was getting a lot of, if this buoy is useful to you and you've seen this, just send me a note. Send me a little thank you that I can pass on to the board and feedback saying, hey, I wish you could format this on the website a little better. If you thought about locating it here, this is what I use it for. Because I'm getting a lot of feedback kind of indirectly from other people or just as a part of normal conversation. They're saying, oh yeah, I do use the buoy. So, maybe we'll get to the point where in a couple of years we'll do a survey or something and make sure we're staying on track, or if we need other sensors or something. But just send me a note, quick little note. So of course, with any new tool, you're going to have maintenance and troubleshooting. So with any project like this, you want to make sure both the staff time and the maintenance in terms of finances are adequate to, keep an investment like this up and running. We don't have quite as tight of parameters as something like, say, that if this was used for drinking water and this was driven by regulation, we're not quite that tight on it. But one of the sensors had to be replaced, and one of the times it wasn't reporting, like so many other technology issues, I fixed it simply by unplugging it and replugging it back in. So that was nice. We had some battery voltage issues, and the technician came out this spring and just replaced the battery. So we were very happy to see that as well, and anticipating that we solved that. So in the subtitle to this video, I mentioned something about spiders. I guess it's not on the title of this video, but it was interesting that we went out there and saw the device covered with spiders and spider webs. Now, it didn't seem to hurt the unit, didn't seem to affect the reporting, so no harm, no foul there. But this was 100 yards from the shoreline, So it's just another one of those interesting ecological facts or reminders that spiders don't just crawl across the earth. They will stick their rear ends up in the air, let loose a little strand of silk, and then I believe that's electrostatically charged, such that it lifts them off of the ground and they can go sailing. Usually it's just a few feet or yards, but they can go for miles and miles. So this is how they spread and colonize new space. It's very quite effective. And you have to think, if you're a fish or the fisherman, this was one tiny little buoy out there on the lake, and we got that much spider activity. It's got to be providing a significant source of nutrients to the lake itself. We also had some mischievous muskrats. I never had definitive, video proof or DNA, but I think based on the bite sizes and its location, that's probably what it is. And unfortunately, they wanted to sample many of the cables that they could find out there. So um, we're hoping it doesn't happen again. It's going to be really hard to muskrat proof this stuff. You could put coatings on it, but it's outside and exposed, and it's that's going to wear away quickly. They bit right into the buoy itself. That isn't necessarily a problem, but we did have to replace some wiring. Another thing that you want to have for your data is regular calibration. So, right, you have a sensor, it's measuring something, but if it's measuring wrong, it's like a scale. You're weighing something you think's a pound, or you're weighing yourself in the bathroom. You're saying, hey, I'm doing great with my dietary goals, and you go and get on a better scale and you realize that you're way off, right? You need to make sure that the sensors are measuring what in actuality is the value. So we have some lab standards that I can take the sensors and verify against. Now, if I was performing this for my PhD, I would have much tighter and more frequent calibrations. For us, we decided to do it just once in the summer. And I was pretty happy that the sensor drift was very, very minimal. So I have pretty high confidence the data that came in that it was on point in giving us the values that I was expecting. So, and it was a great opportunity for our intern Catherine to get some lab experience as well, and some using technical equipment. Another nice feature about this is that it has some nighttime illumination. So it has a separate, smaller solar cell just right on the top and a tiny battery. And all it does is give out a beacon of light at night. So just the right amount too. It's not light pollution. It's not a huge amount of light. But if you're out there on the water and you're getting close, you will definitely see it if you're paying attention. Plus, I know you're not driving faster than 10 miles an hour anyway, which is illegal to do at night in Indiana. So it was nice to see the buoy in action. I was out on a boat with the DNR doing an electrofishing survey, which you can see from our blog, read more about. The chandelier looking thing right here is an anode, and we're sending an electrical shock through the water to survey the fish, stun them, put them in a live well, and weigh and measure them and send them back on their way. So let's look at some of the results. So the dark blue line up there is the dissolved oxygen, and the x-axis here is the average 24-hour value. So way over on the other side is midnight, and then close to me over here is midnight of the next day. So you see the dissolved oxygen going down until sunrise, and then goes up through the day, which makes sense because you have algae and plants photosynthesizing and producing oxygen just like they do on land, they do in the water, and they oxygenate the water. So that peaks about 10 p.m. at night, and then that oxygen starts to be consumed by creatures that are metabolizing in the water, just like we metabolize oxygen. The light blue is the chlorophyll, and the green is the blue-green algae. So both of those are measuring. Okay, it's complicated. So the sensor itself is sending out a light at a certain frequency and hitting these pigments, and they fluoresce, and it's measuring the fluorescence that comes back off of it. So do you know exactly how much algae is there? Sort of. It's more complicated than I can get into here, but they use something called the relative fluorescence unit. It's just on a scale from 0.0 to 1.0. So we see the relative values of those rising and falling throughout the day as well. My understanding is that the algae will fill up on to get their photosynthetic potential of oxygen. And then a lot of these things move up and down in the water column. That's called the deal cycle. So they're moving up and down to avoid predators, to get oxygen, to get nutrients. A lot of the nutrients are in the sediment at the bottom layers of the water. So these are migrating vertically on a daily basis. Really kind of fascinating. And now this one is measuring it, instead of the 24-hour cycle, it's measuring it from April to September. So these are average values throughout the season. So the strange thing here that we saw was that these values were relatively high at first in April, and then kind of came down a level and were even for a while, and then the blue-green really went down. We would usually expect to see those values high at the end of the summer, when the water temperature, which you can see here in orange and yellow, is when the water temperature is higher, when there's maybe less oxygen. So I'm still talking with people. I was talking with people at the conference and other folks about why this data looks like it is. The sensor is, within specification from the calibration. So still looking at ways that can inform our sampling. So so 2026, we would like to start testing for algae now with subsequent conversations with people who know about these things and people at the Lake conference. We need to kind of do, before we go out and do a lot of sampling, we need to test for the type of algae that we have, and this is a pretty advanced skill that needs to happen in a lab. So we're going to do some sampling this summer, identify what kind of algae we have, and then what kind of toxins those might potentially produce, and then we can start sampling for those rather than just blindly sampling because there are multiple kinds of algae out there and bacteria that are producing different types of toxins. And they're only a few of them are concerned, and only at a certain concentration. So, this was some thank you to a lot of our partners. Culver Military Academy and the Health Department, we've been in conversation with them to talk about collaborating on research and looking at public health implications of water quality. The Academy also has their own sensor that they deployed dockside. As I mentioned, Jeff's Marina helped us out there, and the LMEF research vessel USS Minnow, piloted by our very own JD Castleman, helped us out a lot getting out to the buoy, doing some sampling, as well as apologies if I forget to mention any of our other boat captains that helped us out there on the water with this project. So that's it. This was just an excuse for me to show this cool ice heave here at the park. If you do not get our monthly email updates, just send me an email and say, please subscribe me. I don't spam you much more than that. It's just the monthly updates, read them or not, but that's the best way to stay up to date with stuff as it develops. You know about our summer internship. That is, thanks to the generosity of donors, that is endowed in perpetuity. So every single summer I get some extra help, and we get the next generation of lake stewards trained in our area. And I believe, yes, that was going to be the last slide. So thank you for listening. If you have any questions, send them over my way.